Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Jason.
Hello, everyone.
And Stony.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's all good.
I'm waiting for the autumn season to kick
It is
in.
hot.
It's so
I mean,
hot.
it is just brutal out there right now. And lo and behold, I guess you can look at it as good or bad.
What's that?
But my weed eater broke.
Oh, no. Uh-oh.
I brought it to the place to get fixed, and they come and tell me that the whole motor needs to be replaced, and I've got a Honda weed eater. They don't make that weed eater anymore.
Of course not.
I loved it because it was a 4-cycle weed eater, so it just took straight gas.
Wow. Okay.
And so the guy called me the other day and said, look, you only have this thing is supposed to have like over 100 on compression. You're down to like 40 something.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, can the engine be replaced? He said, well, they don't sell the whole engine. You would have to buy it in parts and then assemble the motor.
Oh, no.
He goes, it would just be more cost effective to just buy a new weed eater.
Yeah.
So I'm in the process now of because my yard looks atrocious, and I'm someone that likes a neat yard.
Right.
So I'm having to go buy me a new weeder.
Are you going to buy another 4-stroke?
They don't make them.
Really?
They do not make 4-stroke weed eaters. It's all 2-stroke. It's all mixed gas and oil.
Interesting.
And so I think what I'm going to do is buy me one of those. I think I'm going to go with steel.
Okay.
And buy me the ones that I can kind of detach different parts and put another part on.
That's what we have. Miranda and I have one. You can take it. There's an edger on it.
Right.
There's a little chainsaw on it.
Yeah.
There's all kind of little stuff you can put on it.
Exactly. So I think I'm going to go that route, and that way I'd have some options
Yeah.
on different applications of what I would need it for.
Right.
So, but God, man, I love that weed eater I had. It
I
was strong. It was powerful.
want to say, oh, man, it's probably been a handful of years at this point. I bought a DeWalt combo that was an electric weed eater and an electric leaf blower, and it takes those big DeWalt batteries.
The batteries.
That my dad.
That's kind of popular
my
now.
My dad has a whole bunch of them because he has all like he whenever he started buying electronic tools, he went DeWalt and just like has invested in having all those. So I knew that at any point in time, I know I could swap out batteries for him or whatever. Mm-hmm. So
Makes sense.
I like it. Now for obviously for big jobs, the electric weed eater is not it, like, or at least like for prolonged amounts of time. But if I'm doing like little things around the house, perfect. Because I mean, like, it doesn't, you just hold down the safety and it starts, and you have high and low speed. And that high speed, I mean, you can start knocking out some stuff. But anything that's like too thick or that really like bogs it down.
Yeah, the electric
battery
is
stuff.
not. Yeah,
But,
I prefer motors.
But for me, again, like I said, I'm not doing.
If you're doing commercial work,
you
pretty much need the gas
of course.
just for the maintenance on it. But
Yeah.
like you said, if you're doing, you got like your place would be perfect for an electric one, Jason. Your place is good too. I mean, ours is gas. We like that. But I didn't go DeWalt. I went Milwaukee.
There you go. Yeah.
I like the Milwaukee stuff. I have a lot of the M12 stuff.
Yeah.
And
I heard that they're really good.
I love the Milwaukee stuff. I do.
Where'd you get it from?
eBay, everywhere, pawn shops.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? Marketplace.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I look for it everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
You can always find a deal.
Right.
And Milwaukee has a great warranty on the batteries.
Really?
Yes, much better than the other competitors.
Interesting. That's good.
Yep. I like the M12 stuff.
Right.
And the M18's great stuff too, but that M12 stuff, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm partial to steel. If I'm not going to have a Honda.
Yeah. I didn't
Well,
even know Honda
steel's very good. They know what they're doing, and they've been doing it a long time. So they got some good products.
So I'm going to end up going with...
Can't beat a steel chainsaw.
Oh, yeah. I know that.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, they make good stuff.
Yeah, they do. They really do make good stuff.
So
that was the next thing we got, as a little electric chainsaw, which that thing's bad. I say bad like in a good term, like it can do some work. Now, again, big, long-term projects, not so much. But I have some limbs that fell out of a big oak tree and I was able to make quick work out of them with that little quick chainsaw. It was fun.
We had Miranda and I first moved together. There was 2 trees, tall trees in the backyard, but the bases of them were probably 4 to 6 inches.
Okay.
And we were like, let's cut these things down. They had all these thorns in them. They were just ugly. And cut the first one down. Zip. It was an electric chainsaw, like you said. And it ran an extension cord all the way out there. First one, boom, great. Knocked all the stuff off of it, put it in bags, chopped it up, put it by the road. Go to do the second one. But apparently, when they were first growing these trees, they had used a wire trellis or something like that. Or trellis may not be the right word. Excuse my brain damage again. But they had 3 wires going up the center of the trunk. And I hit that with the chainsaw. Chain, wire, everything. Brand new chainsaw. Ripped just to bits.
Oh, my gosh.
I was just sick. So I had to cut the rest of it down by hand.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Still sitting there. Just needs a new chain, apparently.
There you go.
Right.
Like you said, those when it's on, that torque on those little electric motors is something. Yeah. Once you hit it,
well, especially gone. I know DeWalt has like 2 different size batteries. That chainsaw can take the bigger battery and like it.
Yeah, I think that's a 20-volt one. Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
Like I said, prolonged use or like big heavy jobs, not so much. But like I said, making quick firewood with like some falling down limbs, it was perfect. And I was like, I love this.
I used to have a buddy in Oregon, and there's a alder tree there that's great for smoking. And he had a bunch of those trees on his property, and I used to love that for smoking fish and a light smoke. Yeah. And that's what he would do. When, like you said, when a branch would fall, if it was 3 to 4 inches thick, he was cutting them in 1/2 inch thick things, knock the bark off of it.
Yeah.
And the Postal Service had this thing. If it fits, it ships for $5. It was the same box. And he would fill those little boxes up with the alder wood for me and just ship them to me.
No way.
And it was a perfect little 1/2 inch thick disc, 3 to 4 inches thick.
Yeah.
And you just kind of lay that on I have a extra large big green egg, if Big Green Egg ever wanted to become a sponsor. And I love that. And you could just lay it on the lump coals and it would just burn it so perfect.
Wow.
But he would send me 2 or 3 boxes.
Look at that.
If it fits, it ships. And
wow.
But that's what he would do. He would take his little electric chainsaw out there and just knock them all
making
up
little wood coasters.
Yep.
That's awesome.
But it was the perfect size for smoking on the extra large Big Green Egg. It was perfect. And you could just kind of space them out as the fire moved. It would just start burning the wood.
Oh man,
that's a great wood. For
now
smoking
I'm hungry.
Too. Oh man, perfect for like salmon or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I love a good piece of salmon.
I haven't had salmon in a long time.
One of the things that when people smoke salmon, they cook it a little too much. And it's kind of like tuna. You still want the little pink in the side. And I found personally that cold smoking salmon is better. That way you kind of don't overcook the meat a little bit, but you still get that nice smoky flavor to it.
Right.
And you don't overcook the meat.
Interesting.
So I like to cold smoke it. And the electric smoker is best for that because you can put it at 90 degrees. And that's what's going to do. It's just going to stay at 90 degrees or 100 degrees. You don't want to go 120, 140 because then you just kind of overcook the meat and it dries it out. But you keep that little coal smoke going. Oh, man, you talk about good.
The what is it? The recent fish that I've had was sometime this week. I had tilapia that was made like really well. It was seasoned really well. And I don't think it was smoked. And I think it was baked or something. I haven't had fish in a long time, and I had some, and I was like, wow, this is not bad at all.
I like salmon is okay. I like shark. Shark is my favorite meat. Fish meat.
Expensive taste.
Oh, it's good though. It is good.
What, shark?
Shark.
Never had it.
Oh, what?
I don't think I've ever had shark.
What? Oh, shark.
I mean, I've had tuna and salmon and pretty much a triple tail. I mean, you name all the fish. I don't think I've ever had shark.
Well, there's a restaurant in South Louisiana. I think Baton Rouge is the city that it's in, and I will say their name. Sullivan's has the best tuna on the planet. They do a tuna steak that is
Yeah, because
Chef's kiss.
tuna steak can be kind of.
Yes, it can.
If you're not done right, it's. I'm not a huge fan of eating tuna like that.
Really? Oh, I love. All food can be good. You just got to do it right.
Oh yeah.
You know, salmon is hard because people tend to overcook the salmon a little bit. Tuna is another one, but shark is just easy. It tastes. It has a great taste to it. The meat is different than you'll expect, but it's not a bad different. It's a good different.
Okay.
And for a long time there, a lot of us that were in the health food industry kicked for a while there. Oh, you can't introduce cancer to a shark and all this BS that was going on for years. So we ate a lot of shark thinking it might help us. Turns out not to necessarily be true, but it's still harder to give shark cancer than any other thing.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what I know we Jason had pulled up something about like an article on some
Yeah,
some trends that are happening this year.
I'm looking back on an old podcast we did early in the year, and it was on January 15th.
Yeah.
It was our predictions for 2024.
Oh, wow.
So
how did we do?
I actually don't know. I didn't look into that.
You know, some things are still hanging, so to speak. So that kind of got me going. I was thinking of, you know, everything that's going on right now. The world's kind of crazy. Interest rates are, you know, you've been hearing about what's been going on with there, and, you know, inflation and everything going. So I saw this article, 15 global trends for 2024, and this is in Forbes. I just randomly found this, and it just kind of perked my interest that, you know, maybe we need to look at it and see, did some of the things they talk about, has that materialized?
Well, how about the top one? 2024, the election extravaganza. Did they not use a strong enough word?
Yeah.
Maybe their prediction was wrong. That's not a strong enough word.
When was this article released?
December of 2023.
Right.
Get out. Oh,
yes.
Well,
I think that was an easy prediction. If you didn't predict that, and you would be a very bad psychic if you didn't predict that this was going to be a crazy election. So,
I just don't think they were prepared for the chaos of this summer.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, right now, as this podcast is being recorded, the Democratic National Convention started today.
Oh, really?
Starts
today.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
It started today. They've got the whole thing barricaded off.
Get out.
And the Democrats, who are the main proponents of defunding the police, are calling for extra police protection to protect them from the protesters at the Democrat rally.
You know,
wait, what?
I was, you know,
tell me you're an idiot without telling me you're an idiot.
I'm listening to some of these kind of protesters who they go and interview. You know, various news channels will interview them, and I was listening to one girl saying that, you know, well, while the Democratic Party is generally our ally, they need to feel pressure too, because, you know, they need to feel pressure from the left. And I'm sitting there going, what exactly? I mean, what are you complaining about? It's a lot of it has to do with the Israeli-Palestinian war. Gosh.
Well, there's supposed to be a whole lot of pro-Palestinian demonstrators at this convention.
I'm telling you,
that's one of the things they're worried about.
The next big thing, I think that's, you know, I don't know where this is going to go. I really
know that
don't.
Also,
I'm kind of worried about it, but I mean, I think the Democratic Party is going to start becoming more obligated to that wing of that really is very pro-Hamas and very anti-Israel, and that concerns me. And it just blows my mind that if you look at national voting trends, Jewish people predominantly vote Democrat.
So what's that going to happen?
Yeah, how's that going to play out as time goes? Is there a strategic decision being made to go, where are our future voters? if they're going to lean toward more of the Hamas side of things.
Well, I think they're going to wait until after the election before they open their mouths too much. Although Kamala Harris has come out and said some things, I think they're going to wait until after the election to not lose any possible voters that they have.
Well, today, just real quick, while we're talking about this, an article hit the news on the AP. Blinken says Israel okays a plan to break the ceasefire impasse and urges Hamas to do the same. Said this was updated today. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Monday that Israel has accepted a proposal to bridge differences holding up a ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza. And he's called on Hamas to do the same thing without saying whether concerns cited by the militant group have been addressed. So, I mean, I don't know where this is going to go. I really don't. But I do believe that the Democratic Party there is now a sizable voting bloc in that wing that is very much that they just can't ignore without the risk of alienating voters. And then, they're desperate to try to, when you're dealing with an election right now that is, basically look at most polls have been very close.
Yeah.
Nationally. Now, national polls, I don't necessarily pay that much attention to. It's more about states.
Yeah.
And electoral college is what you need to pay more attention to. But, neither here nor there. Obviously, the country is very evenly divided when it comes to either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris now. And
but the Democrat Party has been hemorrhaging voters from the African American community and then, like you said, the Jewish community, just because of some of their stances of what they're doing.
I'll be very curious to see what happens with that, if that actually translates into more Jewish voters actually crossing the aisle and voting for a Republican. And, people can say all that, but what it comes down to is when you actually go in the voting booth and pull the lever.
Right.
That's the people can say all they want. It's one thing when you actually go in the booth and you got to make a choice.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes those old loyalties are hard to break.
Yeah.
It's just, why do white suburban women generally have leaned toward Democrats lately? Now, I think I've seen some polls there that indicate that maybe that might be shifting a little bit because of the rise in crime, and that's frightening. That's very frightening for that demographic.
Right.
That's a big concern. Also, there's always going to be the abortion issue.
Yep.
When the Supreme Court basically kicked that issue back to each state to fight over,
which I think they should have done.
And,
that's not a federal government thing.
Right. Exactly. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I get in these discussions with women a lot regarding this topic, and because I'm very pro-life, and of course it's how you view these things, and but for a lot of them it's a single issue. I mean, that's it, and it's kind of mind-boggling that I'm willing to basically go bankrupt because of the economic policies that the current regime is pushing, all because I want my right to have an abortion. And that's kind of a very, I don't know, that's a kind of a strange way of viewing the world, so to speak. But for a lot of people, it is.
But I'm sorry. I believe, and I'll say it again, and I know I believe Mr. Ian's eyes are going to roll to the back of his head. The abortion issue and all of this is an attack on the American family. And it has been from the onset of abortion. And now what they've done is the media and the liberals have played this to be a major thing. No one has said that you can't go to your state and let the state decide for you.
Well,
what's wrong with that?
Well,
there it is. That's the bottom line. They
but,
want to turn it into this, and you hate these people, and you want to do this. No, what they're saying is let your state decide for you. This is not a federal issue. This is a state issue.
Fundamentally, this kind of goes back to more of what I think the founders envisioned of how this government was supposed to work. I mean, this is basically federalism. Mm-hmm. The federal government's role was going to be limited to certain things. And if it was not specifically enumerated in the Constitution, it would go back to the 10th Amendment. It would fall to the states to manage that. The federal government changed after the Civil War.
Well, this is.
I mean, it just did. It took on a more broader, and it really took a much broader role with FDR and the New Deal.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's really where it. But you had this gradual, the federal government usurping states' ability to do the things that it wanted to do, that I think is more responsive to the voters that live in that area, mm-hmm. versus trying to impose this one-size-fits-all for everybody, and it just doesn't work because it was never meant to work that way.
The Constitution does not limit what the populace can do. The Constitution limits what the government can do.
Right.
And we've gotten completely away from that.
Right. So
we need to go back to the original Constitution, and where the citizen is above all things. That's the most important thing. If you are a U.S. citizen, that's why. And when we were talking earlier on, why, the Democrats are losing these votes and possibly losing these votes, that's why the border is open. Because they're buying votes.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're
buying votes. That's the bottom line to it.
If you have states that are allowing illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, San Francisco
that's exactly what's going to happen.
Appointed some illegal immigrant as the voting commissioner. I'm sorry. What? I mean, it's still, as far as I know, it's still illegal in the United States to hire an illegal immigrant. You remember back in the 80s and the early 90s where you lost a lot if you got busted having a maid that was an illegal immigrant. Remember the politicians that would get in trouble for that kind of stuff, and the actors?
Well, there's a lot of companies, though, that don't really want... I mean, let's be honest. And I heard this discussion, kind of diving off in the border real quick. If Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, wanted to shut down the border and send the Texas National Guard down to completely shut the border down, he could. The problem is he's got his donor class that are telling him don't do that, mm-hmm. because they want that illegal, cheap labor. Mm-hmm. And I blame those people mm-hmm. for doing that, because all it does is hurt the American worker. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what it does.
Well, why is America the only country in the world that can't enforce its border?
Because they don't want to enforce it.
Thank you.
They don't want to enforce it.
They don't want to enforce it.
They really
break into Russia, break into Afghanistan, break into any other country on this planet, and watch what happens to you.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens with that. But if you have another 4 years of open borders, then I think fundamentally things are going to be so irrevocably warped by then that you're not going to recognize the country anymore. People might say, "Well, that's overreacting, and you're that's crazy talk." I'm like, no. When you introduce, no country does this. I mean, if you introduce all these people in here with no idea where they came from, what diseases they're carrying, they offer no economic benefit. It's one thing back in the old days when immigration was, I'm going to value those people that bring skills. By all means, you want that. And I think most people do. But people that are not bringing skills and they are just strictly going to be needing government help to survive, well, guess how they're going to vote? I mean, it's only natural, right? Mm-hmm. So we have an issue there that will need to get hopefully.
Well, what about the guy who was just caught, who was detained at the border, let go, and then they found out that he was wanted for 22 murders in Venezuela. And then all of a sudden he raped somebody in America, and now he's back in custody.
Yeah, I know. It's but the problem is, that's what I'm saying, there's no political will right now to fix the problem. Okay. And I could say that about a lot of issues that we have. There is just no political will because no one wants to do what needs to be done because it's going to hurt.
In Singapore, 6 months in prison, 3 strokes with a cane for illegal entry. Russia, 2 years of hard labor. Pakistan, 10 years in prison. India, 8 years in prison. North Korea, death. Germany, required to leave the country if they don't have necessary residence. European Union, fines of $1,000 to $5,000 or up to 3 weeks in prison if fine is not paid. United States, free phone, free housing, free insurance. Saudi Arabia, private entities that employ illegal residents may face fines up to $26,000 US and 1 year in prison for the manager and a 5-year ban on hiring on foreign workers.
You know,
Malaysia, up to 5 years in prison for hiring somebody and 6 strokes with a whip. Now, Mexico, that lets all of them through, a fine of 300,000 to 500,000 pesos and up to 2 years in prison for entering Mexico illegal. But America, you get shit for free.
Well, it's for free. They're printing money right now. They're printing money,
money and buying votes.
And I personally think the ultimate goal here is to eventually crash the dollar. You're already starting to see some countries are basically saying, "I don't know if I can trust the dollar anymore." Mm-hmm. You saw like Russia and China, and I think it was Venezuela or Brazil. There was a few countries that are trying to break away from the petrodollar as the standard reserve currency. Mm-hmm. And you do that by just printing more of it. You devalue it to such a point that it just collapses. And then eventually the introduction of what they want is some sort of global currency where it'll be electronic, controlled by the Federal Reserve, and you will not have paper money anymore. You'll have credits.
Well, a lot of people believe right now that the U.S. is facing a 3-fronted war with China, Russia, and Iran. Do you know who the largest when you print money, what's the word I'm looking for? When you print fake
counterfeit
money. Counterfeit money. You know who the largest counterfeiter of the U.S. dollar is?
Who's that?
Iran.
I saw something post earlier. I was trying to find it regarding just housing. It takes right now, someone needs to make about $106,000 right now to afford a home.
Yep.
Not even a nice home. A home.
So that's what I'm saying. All these things have consequences. So not to get too bogged down in that, but here's something else that I thought was pretty interesting. According to Bill Gates, the shift from bots to agents will be the biggest revolution in computing since we went from typing commands to tapping on icons. And 2024 could be the year of commercializing personal agents. Personal agents capable of understanding natural language and executing complex tasks are poised to become ubiquitous, transforming industries, enhancing productivity, and redefining our interactions with technology. Get ready to have your own Bond 007 agent in the future. What y'all think about all this?
I like. I hate it. I understand where he's coming from, and I think that the trajectory is pointing in that direction. Every software manufacturer, anybody that's making anything nowadays, are making AI assistants, quote unquote, for things. And I feel like we're moving in that world where like you don't interface with the internet. You don't interface with anything like that. You have someone that you have a quote unquote AI assistant that like buffers that for you. So you go to this assistant and say like, hey, how are you today? I need this. And of course, then they are able to go to the internet and receive things for you or bring
I would
you
like
locations.
to say that for those that do email us at the Retrospect podcast at getoffendedtogether@gmail.com, it is answered by one of us. We do not have these AI assistants.
Right.
We are happy to read your emails and love to respond to them and read some of them on the air.
Right. But this is saying
ain't gonna be us.
This is saying in the future that
Yes.
like that you won't have the ability to do that.
Right.
Whenever you go to your email, you will talk to an AI assistant saying, "I want you to type an email about this," and that's how you're going to.
You can do that now.
I know, but what I'm
You
saying
absolutely can
what
do
I'm
that
saying
now.
is that in the future you won't have the ability to interact and type your own email up. I'm not saying it's email specifically, but like for instance, if I wanted to go to Google to Google something, I can't do that in the future. In this brief future, like he's talking about, I will go to quote unquote Google. And it will be this AI assistant
that you're talking
that
to.
is going to
not the
exactly
not
who's going
Google,
to start
right?
talking to me as if it's a person and is going to retrieve information for me and tell me what it wants to tell me and not what I want to find, which is kind of the scary part of it all. Is again we're beholden to whatever that assistant is wanting to tell us is the truth instead of us trying to look and find it for ourselves. I mean, crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's
Always
tell me-
Ian's favorite subject.
Well,
AI.
we've talked about that. So my question is, like, Ian, you said, well, I mean, has it feel like it's really moving along? Like,
Oh yeah, the problem is, and I knew this was coming from like a year or two ago when we started talking about it. Is the second that ChatGPT started to become something worth note and like started to like break ground on some things, it doesn't take much for other people to piggyback off of that network, and that's exactly what's happening. And now there's a lot of money in it because you can subsidize the work out to AI and not pay people for it. Because again, an AI is not going to get tired. An AI is not going to ask for vacation time or sick time. And that's the whole thing. I think that was I was worried about it, and more than I've been worried about AI and more than just one facet of it. Like as an artist, as a creator, I don't like the fact that everyone could just type in a prompt and like create art or whatever that just feels soulless and everything, or music that I just don't. I get that it's fun and it's a novelty, but at the same time, what's happening right now, we're dealing with a lot of like legal claims because how AI work is it has to feed off of a database of something. So over the past couple of years, all these AI creators have been feeding their database off of other people's art. That's why it can't really, quote unquote, make things. It can't really create things that it doesn't already know about. It can't create art if it doesn't already have a database of art to pull from. It can't create music unless it has a catalog of music to pull from.
But aren't we kind of the same?
Yeah, you're right.
We are the same because we can't just one day we just magically go poof and we did a Mona Lisa. We can only create art from other types of things that we've inputted into our head.
I get what you're saying, but there is, I think, a way of taking inspiration and then making it your own. I think everything is inspiration. No original thing probably can be created without some inspiration from somebody else. AI can't take that and then use it to make its own thing. It literally has to take it and then manipulate it into. And the thing is, a lot of times in the art that I'm referring to, the art that it was fed was basically stolen. Like it was not paid for at all. So again, it's almost like you take this database worth of someone's art, and then you can recreate their art and not have to worry about the copyright of it all. And that person who created that art, who would like to get paid for that art, who is a person that created something out of their own human instinct, that took inspiration from something else and then made it their own. Now this robot is like copying it all and of course doing it at a much faster rate and for free. And now it's like, well, why should I go to that person whenever I have this robot that just stole your art and then is making it again? And I don't have to pay for it. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where it's like I get that there's like this whole creative element of it all that kind of is hard to pin down as to what's authentic and what's not. But it just, if that AI did not steal any of that artist's artwork, it couldn't create it on its own. It couldn't take inspiration. But we could, though. Even in a vacuum, even if I never saw someone else's art, I can sit here and create something and draw and doodle something that's my own. And AI can't do that.
But if you never saw anything, then you have nothing. If you couldn't just draw a home if you had never seen a home.
I got you.
You cannot create a cat if you had never seen a cat. You're not just going to magically poof a shape up and create artwork. You have to have some input in your head to be able to create something.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing.
I just don't like the idea that you're stealing artwork to do it. That's all I'm saying.
You're still doing the same thing. When you go to a museum and you look at all this fancy art,
no.
You're putting this in your head and you're going, okay, I had this idea.
Okay.
Yeah, you might use those other pictures as an inspiration.
Same thing. That's what AI is doing.
That's exactly what AI is doing. It's putting it in a way now where I think the fear is okay, you put enough of that in the system, so to speak, and now it just does the painting for you.
And this is the frustration of having this discussion, because I see where you guys are coming from, and I don't think you've ever had to worry about that before, like of having your own stuff be stolen in that regard. And like, that's a whole thing that, like, being an artist in America, at least, has been difficult because of copyright and because of making your own music and other people stealing money from you that are higher than you, like record labels and things like that you really don't get the money. You create the product and you get treated like crap. And of course, you kind of get thrown by the wayside for creating something that you want to get compensated for. And now you have companies that are willingly stealing it anyways, that are surpassing even record labels, that are surpassing artists in any level, and they're taking it and of course are now profiting off of you. And it's like, okay, so I used to get shafted before because I was part of a record label that would like kind of, squeeze money out of me, and I would get some sort of paycheck. But now you're stealing money from even them and even myself, where it's like now you're creating this artwork and making money off of it. And like making fake music that sounds like me, or that is me, or that artwork that is very much akin to what I would make in my quote unquote style, or that is like directly stealing stuff from myself. And I now can't make any money off of it. And then whenever I try to dispute it, you're like, no, we didn't train our AI on your artwork. And then come to find out, just a few months ago, like that's exactly what they were doing. They stole all this artwork from a bunch of different people, a bunch of different videos from people. And instead of, giving money to anybody else, they were able just to like build this database and build an AI network of stuff and then capitalize off of it. And it's like, that kind of sounds a bit gross, personally. And that's where I'm coming from with it all. Yeah. It's like,
I get it. I'm not totally disagreeing with you, but it's still input result. Result.
Again, on the base level, yes.
The only difference is conscience. We have a conscience and we have a soul, and AI yet today, and it may in the near future have its own conscience. Then what do you do?
The same thing can be said about works of writing as well. Obviously, again, as a writer, as someone that's like writing something, you can input an entire book in there and they can recreate something that's very much in your style or something like that, or even recreate your book. And of course, you have no way of stopping that, and that's just the way it is. And that's the part that's scary about it all, is that it's moving so fast, and it's just like I said, we are just now getting to a point where legislation is stepping in and trying to put these companies that have stolen millions of dollars worth of art or worth of writing or worth of whatever, and trying to like, hey guys, like, we really got to try and pigeonhole this down or try and figure out some things. But not before every company in America has capitalized on.
I wish I'd known we were going to talk. I saw an article basically just outlining everything you just said about they're trying to make people accountable for it.
And that's the problem. So, it's like now it's so rampant now that the AI has now grown so big and is now like exponentially grown to a point now where it's like, and it also has full access to the internet now. So now it's like, it's hard to like differentiate now, but the damage is done. So it's
I have AI, and y'all know I use AI, and it's kind of fun. And
right.
I do a lot of research with it, but I always I hate to use the word fact check, but I always verify what I did. I have a couple of different resources with AI, and I got an email, I think was it end of last week, middle of last week. Hey, do you see a website that you like? All you have to do is let me know what that website is, and I can change that website and turn it into your website and make it your own.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How simple is that?
It's crazy. And then I think, like I said, there are applications of it where I get the convenience of it. I get and this is what I think. For me, if I'm to really bring this all back down to the root of where my kind of frustration of it all is, the thing that kind of sparked this mistrust for AI and that kind of has led to this eventual growth into the monster it is now for me versus AI and this whole discussion we've had. It all started a couple of years ago whenever I said I think that it is making us as humans more lazy.
Oh, I agree.
I think that there are applications where I think AI is going to really push us forward as a civilization. Honestly, I think there are things that we as humans miss because we're fallible creatures. There are things that go underneath the radar. There are doctors that may not quite get the right assessment or whatever it may be. There are like these little things that just we miss that I think a computer or an AI won't miss. And I think that kind of stuff, I think, is what's going to push us forward. The thing that I feel like and that's on the big level, creating architecture that is like precise, medicine, flight, like all these like engineering things, I feel like AI is going to help propel us forward. The thing is, that's all like way up here. And we all as like a civilization, as like just people, are all down here, and we all have access to AI that is like, quote unquote, making our lives simpler or easier. And I just feel like it's making our lives more lazy. And I think that's the thing that kind of worries me as an artist myself and as a person that, I'm trying my best to better myself every chance I get. And I feel like social media and AI are these two things that are constantly trying to make my life easier or faster. And it just is like, it's making me more lazy and less involved in the things that I enjoy doing or that I want to get better at personally. And I'm not saying it's across the board, but like as an artist, instead of like, I can understand the conversation started with like AI art or AI music is a good like inspiration to kind of like spark that. But now it's gotten to a point now where it can just make a whole song for you, or it can make a picture that is like photorealistic, and it's like, that's not inspiration anymore. It's like, it's creating the thing you wanted to create. And now you have, all you did was just type in a few words. And like, instead of like going out and trying to learn how to create that or try to make that or make it your own or all that kind of stuff. And like, maybe we're just moving into a new future. Maybe this is the old man Ian. This is the crotchety old, this is the thing, the soapbox I stand on. And I'm like, you young kids, like, this is just the next iteration of art, and maybe I'm behind the times, and maybe I am, but for me, like, it is lacking that human inspiration. It is lacking that.
That's where I think the problems with AI, I think on the technical side, I think AI is very much welcome because it's, let's be honest, it's smarter than people.
Right.
There's no biases involved unless it's kind of built into the system, which that's another issue unto itself.
There's no laziness and doesn't want to just work from
home.
home.
Right, exactly. There is some advantages I could see where AI will make things better on the technical side.
Right.
Where I think the problems come in, and this is what you're touching on, is the creative side.
Right.
The spirit side of a human being. And that's where a computer, we're just not there yet with the level of technology. Now, we've talked about the levels of AI.
Right.
That the natural evolution, as the machine gets smarter, you're able to build, your material sciences get to a point where you can actually build cybernetics. In essence, you have the world of Terminator or any of these sci-fi films that have shown
Right.
robots to be able to almost mimic what people can do, and then whether, as at some point, do they have consciousness?
Yeah.
Okay, this is where that line starts getting crossed.
Right. In the sci-fi world, and if for any of those out here that are listening that don't quite know the scary side of that, is in this future that we're talking about, in this sci-fi depiction of AI getting smarter and smarter and far surpassing us as humanity and becoming the most intelligent being, entity, thing, whatever you want to consider it as, in our known universe. At that point, it starts to the hypothesis that is posed is at some point we become the flaw that is holding it back.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We as humans are lesser beings than it. And just like throughout history, as humanity has found creatures or even people that they deem to be lesser than themselves, and how poorly humanity has treated those creatures or almost extinct them or have extinct them, that kind of idea is played up even more. Is like, if this all-knowing entity can look down on us and go, oh, you're just the animal that upkeeps me or whatever, or at a certain point when it can upkeep itself, is like, you're just an obstacle. You're my pet. You're my thing. And that is humanity to this.
Sort of like that movie I, Robot.
Right.
Isaac Asimov really kind of dived into that a little bit regarding the machine eventually, to protect humanity, I have to basically take over.
Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, I can understand the fear.
And for me, that's, again, obviously, like, that is a thought in the back of my head. Like, I'm not saying that I'm sitting here like worrying about it every day, but it's just getting to a point now where, again, we've even had an episode about this, about like the glorification of busy. Like, I'm so busy, or I got so many things to do. And it's like, when you really think about it, if you really peel back all those like superficial things that like you think that are making you busy, like, you have, I think, so much more time than I think you give yourself credit for.
Right.
I think that you distract yourself a lot with social media, and you have a lot of things in your life that are making your day-to-day existence simpler and faster and easier. And at a certain point in time, I do think that resistance, I think, makes us better. Mm-hmm. Having something that can push us back, having something we can overcome. And I think that's just where I'm at, where I'm like, I feel like as an artist, for me personally, I think the obstacle of like finding inspiration and then creating something myself and making it my own is like a very enjoyable process. And I feel like there's a lot of artists that are coming up in this day and age that aren't experiencing that. They can literally go into Photoshop and then type in something, and it can just create it, or like content aware fill, where it can, like, you can just put a picture in there and it can AI generate a whole thing around it. And it's like, I get the simplicity of it. But like,
I just want kind of a little dive on this one. Could it be like, who was the guy who would chip? Was it Michelangelo who would chip the granite?
Yeah. It was marble, and he was
marble.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him looking at the guys doing the painting, going, "What the hell? Here I am chipping at all this stone here, and you're just doing it." I mean,
maybe, but I think even still,
you guys got it easy. I
think even still that is its own, maybe, but I think even
that
still
was the new art.
That is a new art form. Mm-hmm. But I think that is still someone expressing themselves through a medium of art, of like overcoming like the like of having no understanding of paint and how to make it happen. And then through trial and trial and trial, you can become this great artist where you can make something like that. I think even that.
I'm just wondering if that could have been his thought process too.
You're probably right, and again, that's why I said I'm willing to be the crotchety old guy who's like, get off my lawn when it comes to AI, because I very well may be that.
Such a good movie.
Is that?
I'm sorry, that was Gran Torino.
Is that?
You remember that?
I've
get off my lawn.
I'm very aware that may be the case. That as a person that is now 30, that looking at this new modern wave of it feels a little easy. But even still, I feel like there are artists in my world that I've had talks with. They're like, I like the idea of AI and art and all that creation, but they have all. I mean, a unanimous conclusion that I've heard from those people is like, I just feel like it's making me less inspired. It's making me it's hindering my creative process of how to kind of break through and do something new. It feels like a crutch. And so that's the kind of the thing that I'm hearing. Whereas in your example, you can see a painting and go like, that's just this new modern wave of art. But like you still have people that are like expressing themselves and like overcoming something and bettering themselves at a skill. Whereas now, and again, like I said, I could very well be wrong. I feel like the skill that you're getting better at is, how do I properly feed this machine words to then output what I want? And maybe that is a skill. Maybe that is something that like I'm lacking, I'm not great at, and I'm getting upset about, because again, but at a certain point, it's like you're not really. I feel like you're not learning a skill. You're having a machine form a skill for you, is what it feels like.
Well, so, for all intents and purposes, it's like in that movie. What was it? The Matrix.
Yeah.
Remember, and they just downloaded something in your brain. Oh, right. I know jujitsu now, and it's like, I mean, that's where that's where we're going.
Exactly.
But, okay, so I thought let's move on to something else, because there are other things here.
Yeah.
Green energy milestone, turning point for sustainability. In a watershed moment for the global transition to clean energy, renewables are poised to surpass 1/3 of the global power generation in 2024. This landmark achievement, driven by unprecedented solar and wind power growth, marks a pivotal juncture in the fight against climate change. As world leaders convene at COP28 in Dubai to discuss strategies for achieving net zero emissions and building resilience to eliminate impacts, the burgeoning adoption of renewables serves as a beacon of hope, demonstrating the world's commitment to sustainable future. While challenges remain in ensuring a just and equitable transition, like we see with hydrogen, the rapid growth of renewables provides compelling evidence that sustainable future is within reach. Where do we think we're at on that?
I think that is a lot of word salad.
Yeah, probably so.
Okay, because all the evidence right now is showing it ain't even close, and the direction that we're going. And if you see, a lot of the main car manufacturers are backing off of the EV stuff.
Yeah.
So that's word salad, because that's not even close. I'm sorry, I disagree.
Well, yeah. Look, let's be honest. Any of these, it's the
hydrogen part I agree with.
The academic world and the kind of the media world right now are heavy in this. About saving the planet, and we got to do this and got to do that, and I pulled up some interesting stats here. Solar capacity will increase an additional 30% to 31 gigawatts in 2024. We expect U.S. wind capacity to increase 5% in each of the next 2 years, 6 gigawatts in 2023 and 7 gigawatts in 2024. So
there's a lot of misconceptions on nuclear power, and I feel like that's going to be the one thing that would really help us out. There's a lot of misconceptions on nuclear power. I think a lot of it is perpetuated by coal and big oil, but I feel like that is who damaged the nuclear industry in the beginning, was the coal and the petroleum, because I was watching something, I may have even said this on the show. If you took all of the nuclear waste from every nuclear power plant since the first one, and let's say you took a football field and it had, got 100 yards and 10 yards and 10 yards in the end zone. If you started at the goal post on the first one, how many times would you fill up that football station with all of the nuclear waste in the world since day one? You wouldn't.
Well,
you wouldn't fill it up one time. You wouldn't even get to the 35-yard line.
Right.
And that's been, since the 70s?
Well, it says here the share of renewable energies in total generation is expected to reach 50% in 2024.
No.
Global nuclear generation is on track to reach a new high in 2025, surpassing the previous record in 2021. Nuclear generation is forecast to rise globally by 1.6% in 2024 and by 3.5% in 2025.
It's good that there's improvement, but it's just the problem is the amount of damage that is going to be done before real actionable stuff is the problem. Because again, the amount of coal and the amount of oil that is being used is like actively damaging the atmosphere, like every day, and that's the problem. Is like to really start. I mean, it's just. I don't have all the numbers right here, but I've watched a lot of videos and a lot of people that are very reputable that I trust the opinion on, and I see the facts and what they're talking about, and they're like every day that we're burning that stuff, it is actively making it like causing a problem, and nuclear wouldn't have that. And the problem is like there's a lot of misconceptions around the waste and around all that stuff when it's like a lot of it, from what I've been told and from what I've seen, after the waste goes in like a chamber for it to cool off, I think is what they call it, like quote unquote cooling off. It then is put back in the earth, like deep down in the earth, where it becomes like inert after a long period of time. And it's like I don't know. I'm not saying it's perfect, but like there's a lot of misconceptions on it, and I think we would be.
I know, Stoney, you say you like hydrogen. I've got something here on hydrogen. Clean hydrogen production could as much as triple in 2024 and rise 30-fold by 2030. Mm-hmm. That isn't impressive, but it's a far cry. I mean, I'm
digging hydrogen. When you think about
I think that is definitely the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do a lot with hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
I think at one time they even produced a hydrogen car.
They have. There's hydrogen cars out there.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
But they're not really utilized to the level.
Not to the level they should be, because, again, the petroleum industry went after them just like everything else.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's definitely an attractive fuel for the future, so it's something to think about. But I mean,
where do you get hydrogen? Think about that.
Water.
Win-win situation. Okay, the ice is melting and the water's rising, so you need the water to get the hydrogen, and you produce nothing but oxygen when you take the hydrogen out of it. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Is that a good idea? Sounds like a great one to me.
Yeah, well, it says in the Summit Friendship Solar Village project announced as one of their winners at the Reuters Global Energy Transition Awards under the Projects of Impact was New York.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting. So, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I like the next one because we've actually talked about this one. We had a show on the second part of the second one.
Was a Space Odyssey 2024 not just for astronauts?
Oh, that's not the next one.
Which one are you talking about?
The Office Saga continues.
Saga.
Yeah,
yep,
you
I passed that one up.
You skipped one.
Yep, the Office Saga continues. Meetings 3.0 and Office Real Estate Impact. The future of work is all about Meetings 3.0. The ongoing hybrid work revolution is reshaping traditional meeting dynamics and office needs. Technology, particularly generative AI, is enhancing both physical and virtual meeting spaces. Video conferencing will evolve with real-time analysis, creating breakout rooms and AI-driven whiteboards, turning notes into tasks. Real-time translation will eliminate language barriers. In 2024, virtual meetings will become immersive, AI-powered experiences, transforming traditional meeting rooms into flexible, high-impact spaces. However, the impact of hybrid and remote work on office real estate is evident, with a projected 35% drop in office values by the end of 2025 and record high vacancy rates globally. Is a commercial property financial meltdown possible on the cards with prices in 2024.
What was the episode we talked about this?
A vacant downtown.
That's it, a vacant downtown. We talked about this, and we actually kind of predicted it. I wonder if somebody's actually listening to our show. Yeah. Because it sounds like they got that directly from the Retrospect podcast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's right now, I'm telling you what.
We predicted that.
There's a lot of people that just don't want to go back to work. Mm-hmm.
But even still, I mean, like, even if we don't think about that for a second, just like I get the, oh gosh, it just makes me feel, I don't know. I get the fun. Let me, how do I word this without sounding mean? I get the fun, novel aspect of there being this AI-powered hybrid physical virtual meeting space, and maybe in the future we really could have something like that, but like I just don't think it's going to be better than just having people sitting around a table together. Maybe in the future, again, having like AI whiteboards and all these things that we can, like, in real-time translations. I do believe that those are some very important things, and I do think that, you know, having some sort of something like that can be important in the future. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I could see, depending on how immersive the simulation becomes, I mean, literally, you can make it where you can look like and appear that there's people all around you.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, I get that. I mean, and I know that I think Meta has something right now with their Oculus that you can do like a meeting space, and it feels very natural and very snappy. So I do think I think it's fun, but I mean, maybe this is me being old and being.
You're not old, Ian.
I think I'm old. I like technology. I like future technology. I don't feel like this is inspiring me. An AI office space where people can sit down and meet. Like, I get the funness of it. I get the functionality of it, but a lot of it feels like ways for corporations to cut money.
No, it probably is.
And I get that. And I get that maybe that is what it is. But like, if I saw that money put into like other cool things, for me, like, I feel like you're supposed to, I forgot who has said this. I've worked for a couple of companies that have had this mantra that, like, you have this third space. You have your work, you have your home, you have your work/school, and then you're supposed to have a third space. Sometimes it's a church, sometimes it's your local coffee shop. A lot of times it was a bar. Like, and I feel like we are increasingly in this modern world losing that third space of like community areas where people can all come together, where
now it's social media space.
So now it's social media is that like third space for people, which I think is depressing and sad and shouldn't be the case. And now I feel like now we're talking about losing that second space as well, where it's like now we're just like, I think we were all cooped up inside during the COVID pandemic, and I don't think it was beneficial towards anybody. And now this discussion of like, let's get rid of not only community areas, but also like people's work environments / school environments. And it's just like, I like I said, maybe I'm crotchety and I'm really on my soapbox today, and I'm preaching, but it feels more like, I don't know, it feels depressing. Like let's all come to a space where we can sit around a table and discuss our situation.
It goes back to goes back to I don't want to leave my pet at home. Right. We talked about that. Yeah. I mean, I like the ability to be at my house and not have to burn gas.
You're right.
To drive.
Yeah.
Fight traffic. All the things that are associated with having to get up and get yourself ready for work and go out the door and do what you got to do. Right. I do believe that, yes. I mean, we have lost that human interaction. But unfortunately, a lot of people, let's be honest, a lot of people don't want to be around people.
I know.
What was the movie Bruce Willis?
Surrogates.
You knew where I was going with it. You knew exactly where I was going.
I've been thinking about it while this topic came up. I feel like that is the world
that we're heading to.
That's the logical conclusion to this sort of thinking.
Are you familiar with this movie, Ian? No. Uh-oh, here we go, another one for his other podcast.
Yeah, you need, because that falls right in line with a lot of the things you like to...
Put this at the top of your watch list. I'm serious. They never leave the house. What is, they live in some kind of a pod or something,
Well,
right?
what happened, their bodies are in essence, everybody's... They're old and
they go to
frail.
Work. They never
health.
leave the house. They go to work.
They hook in.
Travel to work.
Yep.
They go to work. They do their work. They go to a restaurant. They go watch a movie.
Right.
They do everything that we do in life except leave their house.
Right. It's the world they've created is so immersive.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically living in the Matrix for all intents and purposes.
Right.
That's in essence
a different form of the Matrix.
It's a different form of the Matrix, but that's,
again,
you got to see the movie.
I know. I see what you mean.
You got to see the movie.
But even that, in some capacity, still feels like there is a community aspect to it. If everyone's in the same thing of like we're all able to meet up in some kind of space and it feels realistic and we're able to have human communication and contact, like maybe. Like
that's kind of what I think. That's kind of what I was thinking about the idea of people just staying at home, and that the tech would get to a point where you could create this virtual world that everybody plugs into,
right.
And people are walking around in a body of their choosing, how they want to look. You know, if I want to look like I'm still 30 years old, but the reality is I'm 70 years old at home.
Yeah,
you could do that, and so yeah, I mean those are possibilities. But we all knew in that movie what the consequences of that.
And they established it pretty well. That was I can't really remember all of it now, but that was at one time that was one of my favorite movies. I think that's a little further down the road,
right,
for us. I think we're closer to Demolition Man.
Yeah,
with a 15-minute city, control. You cuss and ding 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 ding.
Right,
you are 5 credits deducted. Right. 5 credits. I think we're closer to that, and the technology that they had in that movie. I think we're closer to that, but I see the surrogate world.
If I remember that in that movie world, that there was a massive earthquake that destroyed. That new city was built upon the ruins
of something
of the old world, so to speak.
And I think we're closer. That's what I'm saying. I think we're closer to that, especially with some of the policies and things like that of the governments today. That's what they want. But I could see the surrogate world further down the road.
So too. I don't know what the latest on the current vacancy rates in downtown as we record this.
Yeah.
I mean, we produced some information when we did the podcast regarding this topic specifically. I don't know what it is like as of August.
Before we wrap up on this little thing, just to kind of hammer home the point that I was saying, I think that in the future that this technology will give us the ability to do that, and I do think human interaction and all that kind of stuff is still going to be okay in this kind of artificial space. I'm just talking about like on like a basic human level of just like having a hand on a shoulder of a friend and like being there person to person. Is like I know we're talking about these like crazy awesome sci-fi things and like this far future stuff, but in the immediate future where I feel like there are still scars that are healing over from COVID, where people didn't have like a strong sense of community or purpose or whatever connectedness to their surroundings, and I feel like that's where we're just moving. It makes me more sad that it just like we're hyping up all this stuff, and I do think this technology is cool, and I do think that one day it could be great, and I don't think we should stop working on it. I just don't. I think that people should give a little more credit to just hugging a friend and being there at the same table, and more so, or even still like working with someone, working across with someone is like a big thing.
Well, human beings are built for relationships,
right?
We are. We're social creatures. We're not loners.
Yeah,
we're not meant to operate in a vacuum. We're meant to be together. That's the human species.
Right.
really requires that. That's just how we're oriented. I don't know of too much in nature that's solitary.
I don't know, and that's what I'm saying.
There may be a few things out there, but for the most part, it's always two or more.
Yeah.
That are involved. So, but moving on.
Yeah.
This this next one? I kind of jumped the gun on a little bit. Space Odyssey 2024, not just for astronauts. This has been a unique year for space, with Starlink's gaining prominence with battlefield usage and India's ISRO putting the Chandrayaan-3 on the south pole of the moon. Space is no longer just for astronauts or for the privileged nations or just for men. It's a new frontier for commerce. The USA and China are in a cosmic showdown, with services like satellite imagery becoming as common as your morning coffee. Forget the sky is the limit. In 2024, the sky is just the beginning. The space landscape is set for dramatic transformation in 2024 as emerging technologies converge to revolutionize space commerce. Satellite services, space exploration, and on-orbit activities will become commonplace, driven by a fusion of international cooperation, strategic competition. And not to mention, we might have Jeff Bezos' partner, Lauren Sanchez, leading an all-female crew on spaceflight in early 24 aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket. This groundbreaking mission will mark a significant milestone for women in space exploration and underscore the transformative potential of private spaceflight.
Well, we're in the middle or late middle of 2024, and I don't remember that happening. So
yeah, so I mean, right now they're having some problems getting up there and getting some astronauts down. My understanding, I think, from the International Space Station, Boeing's been trying to get up there to do so. I saw something, you know, where was it? It was something to do with Boeing, and they had some problems going up there. Boeing. I'm trying to look this up right now. Boeing Starliner.
As much as these countries want to fight and bicker all the time, can you imagine what would happen if China, Russia, and the U.S. ever got together and said, hey, let's do something fantastic?
Right now, there's a bunch of, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's special weapons to take down satellites. And that's a really big, scary thing because they're GPS satellites. And one thing I've realized, I watched some videos and did some research on it, and GPS satellites don't just affect the GPS of your phone. They also affect like timing on stock market stuff. They also deal with like understanding of other like big systems and frameworks that like countries rely on. And if one of those satellites were taken down, like it could severely ruin communications across a country. And there's like I think it's China and also America and things are developing weapons to take down satellites. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a scary situation that
I think they've had that up for a while.
Right, but what I'm saying is to hack into them is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Hack into them and then also shut them down. Not just like physically have them like come out of but to shut them down or to destroy them, while also in space. So like satellite versus satellite stuff that could shut down a whole country for a period of time.
Well, the Boeing spacecraft here, originally planned to last just 8 days, leaks and other technical issues suffered by Boeing's Starliner spacecraft on its way to the International Space Station have delayed the planned return flight by more than 2 months. And that has left 2 astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, stuck in space.
Whoa. That's scary.
So, as much as, to me, this illustrates how primitive we still are,
right,
when it comes to this. I mean, we really are.
I mean, nobody thought to pull an old shuttle out of the bay and see if they couldn't send it up. I mean, really?
Well, I mean, what you've seen now with Elon Musk and SpaceX and some of these other things, and I was privileged to be able to go to NASA this year, and I got to see Blue Origin and all those rockets. I mean, it's pretty fascinating, but it just seems to me that the private sector really has taken over space exploration.
Right.
There's no longer a government, kind of goal the way it was during the Kennedy administration of getting to the moon and beating the Russians there.
Because now there's enough money to put into it.
Well, just think about the first guy who goes up there and starts taking down satellites.
Yep.
Because they're broken. Think about all that. You don't use copper wire on a satellite. You use solid gold wire because it's the best conductor, and silver and platinum. That's going to be a moneymaker right there, and I think that's why these guys are really pushing for this, is just satellite salvage to start with, and then going to the moon and getting all of those resources.
Well, maybe, SpaceX may end up having to go up there. I'm looking at this here. NASA representatives announced the contingency plan Wednesday, and this was published August 8th, so a week or so back, saying astronauts Barry Butch Wilmore and Sunita Suni Williams could come back to Earth around February 2025.
Oh, my gosh.
With two-person crew on SpaceX's Crew 9 mission. Wow. That mission is slated to launch to the International Space Station in September, so next month.
Wow. Hey, but talk about some legitimacy, though. If that mission's successful, that's a big win for SpaceX.
Yeah. So,
you got NASA that's like, hey, we're going to subsidize this workout. That's awesome. I see we have a couple more things on this list that are referring to AI.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Which I think is kind of interesting.
We've kind of touched on that already.
Yeah,
one of them
I was going to say
you got on was the acceleration of AI ethics and legislation.
I know.
Yeah,
we've gone pretty long on this episode. I don't know if we wanted to review, wrap up on one of the other ones.
Well,
this isn't the longest episode yet. But.
Yeah, I think it's we are in a state of flux, and I do believe I'm a firm believer that I do believe that this election is going to be. They say every election's important.
Oh yeah,
there's something about this one though. I think is very critical. Whichever way the American public chooses to go, it's going to fundamentally transform us, because I think if you're going to continue doing what you're doing now, then the country is going to be forever changed. And I do believe some of the economic models that are right now kind of governing us, I think are going to fail, and they're going to have to redo some new ones.
Right.
I think just the paradigm is going to shift.
Yeah.
So, but beyond that, it's always interesting to kind of look at some of this stuff. We're in August now.
Yep.
We originally did kind of our predictions, as we always do in the beginning of the year, what we think is going to happen. Some things have happened, some things have not. So, but we'll see.
We got 77 days until the election.
Yep.
So we're approaching.
Just hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't descend into chaos.
Me either. I know that regardless of whatever side goes, I mean, it will.
Oh yeah.
I just hope that I hope that the damage is minimal.
Yep. It's been fun. I've enjoyed this episode.
Interesting.
Just looking at some of this stuff.
I think we've each had our moment, our 15 minutes of fame, getting to talk about certain things.
Yeah, that's right.
This one, so. But anyways, if any of you out there have suggestions or comments on this episode, you can reach out to us on our email, which is getoffendedtogether@gmail.com, or you can go to our Facebook page @RetrospectPod. You can type in Retrospect Pod most places and should be able to find us there as well. But until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today. You're the best. Peace.